As a person who's lived with pain for 14 years, for me, having an implanted medical device has really been an answer that's allowed me to be a mother to 3 young boys and have a job and really put pain in the back seat. Whereas for many years when I was looking for solutions through doctors and medication alone, pain was very much in the driver's seat. But it wasn't a decision that I made lightly. It was a lifelong commitment. My husband sometimes jokes. He used to say that pain was the third partner in our marriage, and the stimulator is now something that's always a part of us and something that needs to be considered. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that decision.
Sure, and I think persons who are in your situation, they go through a lot of treatments before they would come to the decision to have one of these devices put in. And I think most importantly for what you said is when we as health professionals think about putting one of these devices in, we have to think that we are married to each other. We're married to our patients because it's a true partnership. And we have to do our job by educating and informing you, your family, your caregivers, and hopefully that will lead to a more successful outcome with these devices.
It's not a decision you can take lightly.
No, it's not.
Take lightly at all.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And I think the thing is, too, is you had said, you know, you had some trials and tribulations when you first had your stimulator implanted.
No doubt about it.
And I don't think patients realize that. I think sometimes they go into it thinking, well, this is a magical cure. And it can be a magical cure because I know you're able to live a very full and active life with your kids now that you have yours, and that's wonderful. But I think people need to go in knowing there are risks, but great benefits also. What were some of the risks you encountered at first, Mary?
Well, I think something I didn't really understand going in, despite the fact I had a very good doctor who did speak very openly with me about what was involved. I don't think I really understood that it wasn't the doctor who was fixing me, and that when you go in to have something like a stimulator or another medical device put in, you really have to have, as the person with pain, you have to have an active role in getting it to be effective for you. It's not like when you get a shot and the doctor does all the work and you're fixed. It's something where in many cases you may need to be awake during surgery. You may need to say if the placement is correct. You may need to say if the stimulation is correct. And that emotionally and physically is not so easy.
Do you feel your healthcare team did a good job with you?
They did. I think what's hard is my understanding of my role as a person with pain in the dynamic. I still, even though I'd been through probably 14 different doctors, at the time I finally arrived at someone who was really a specialist with devices and with pain, I still was looking to the doctor to be in charge of the relationship, and I was still looking to the doctor for the solutions, and I really didn't understand that I had to step up and that a lot of the weight needed to be on my shoulders, and that what I was saying could change the whole direction of my treatment. You know, move it a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. I never would have imagined that was my responsibility. And that's something I think that's unique to medical devices.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing I think we tell people is, especially just not in the immediate post-op period, but for years to come, please call and ask your practitioner. Anything. There's not a dumb question when it comes to these devices. You know, if in the immediate post-op period, any questions, if something's not feeling right, if again, you said yours need to be tweaked and reprogrammed, and that's something that can be easily done, and you shouldn't have to wait to have that done. That should be able to be done in a timely manner. And just again, post-op care, you know, no bending, lifting, things like that in the immediate post-op period, which I think patients don't prepare themselves adequately. And I think it's our job as health professionals to really do our job well and teach and prepare you for what's going to happen, especially in the immediate period and in the long term.
For me, it's been multimodal treatment that's included pain medication to a lesser degree than before I had the stimulator implanted. But it's not just put in a battery and life is back to what it was before your injury or illness occurred.
And you said you've had your battery changed.
I have had my battery changed twice. I had it changed initially very early on because the lead placement caused the battery to be running at too high of a power. And then my battery, fortunately, lasted for 10 years after that, and I just recently, last year, had it replaced again.
Right. So you have to realize that, it's not just one surgery and done.
No, you can't walk away.
Right.
You can't walk away.
You have to realize there may be additional surgeries to have you maintain the quality, the stimulation, the quality of life you've been accustomed to. Yeah, and I think you brought up a great point before, because we have a great relationship with our medical device representative, and can call him at the drop of a hat, because my nursing staff and I, we can do it, but we're not the experts, and so to have someone available at a phone call to come in and help you. And I'm sure, hopefully you've had that with your device, and that can reprogram you and help you. That's like a second safety net besides your physician, just to have them there to give you any advice that's needed. Mary, after you had your stimulator implanted, I know in the immediate post-op period, it's very important. The things to look for. Number one, of course, is infection. You have to be able to have someone, if you have a stimulator, and a lot of patients have a back incision. So you have to have a caregiver there to be able to look at your back, look at your incisions, make sure everything looks good, they're clean and dry. Any signs of fever, anything that you just don't feel right. That's the important things to look for in the immediate post-op period.
What degree of lead movement should be expected when you're coming out of surgery?
A fair amount of degree in the immediate post-op period. We tell patients it takes about 6 to 8 weeks for that lead to scar in place.
You know, one thing we didn't talk about was the actual placement of batteries. And for me, that was probably a harder decision than whether to get the stimulator implanted or not. I wonder if that's something you see with your patients, where patients are deciding based on their body type and their lifestyle. Where's the battery going to go?
Exactly.
And considering things like, what kind of belts do you wear?
Exactly.
And,
what kind of clothing you wear. Because typical placements in the lower abdomen or the upper buttock region, and it really, especially for men, especially buttock region placement could be, when they're wearing, while it's in their back pockets and things like that. So that's really patient preference. It's surgeon and patient preference, but we defer to patient preference when talking about where we're going to put a battery.
I know for me, I received some really good advice from my doctor in that area, and he had suggested that I experiment with different placements. He sent me home with a sample battery, which he actually
that's
had
a great
me
idea.
literally tape on and live with it. Try it with pants, try it with different styles of clothing, try it sitting down in the car, and really figure out if that's something that was going to be comfortable long term. The other thing he had me consider, fortunately, was, do you plan to have children? And if you're planning to be pregnant, you probably don't want a battery in your abdomen. Just practical things like that, which I might not have thought of had he not raised it with me. Sometimes, as a person who has successfully lived with an implanted stimulator, I tend to forget at times that I have this device and that it's something somewhat foreign to many healthcare providers. And sometimes I forget that I really have a role in bringing it to their attention in advance and making sure they have the number of the company or the company rep as well as my doctor to call with questions so they can feel confident and I can feel safe.
Right, exactly, and safety is the key.
If you're traveling or away from home, away from your doctor, and there is a problem, you may not be able to go to an urgent care center with a question. I know I rely very heavily on my doctor and know that if there's something going fluky with my stimulator, I would never go to anyone else about it. I would go to him first and ask him to intervene with someone else if necessary.
Or would you call the medical device company, the 1-800 number on your card?
I have.
That's what we tell people over and over. That number's there for a reason. Every device we implant, patients get an ID card. And we tell them use that 1-800 number because they're truly experts on the other end of that line that can help you in any situation. They've helped me as a healthcare provider if I have questions. So it's important to point that out, and it's not just a card you carry around. It really has a use.